began forcing people off public assistance and into jobs, the number of recipients has dropped by almost 60%. But that still leaves more than 5 million Americans on welfare, and getting them off has not been easy. One reason is that a huge number of them are depressed, not just suffering from a case of the blues, but seriously medically depressed. It's an epidemic of depression among America's poor.
Well, about 15% of the population at some time in their life has major depression. It's 2 to 3 times that high among people who live in poverty.
Dr. Ronald Kessler of Harvard School of Public Health has conducted the largest study ever done of mental illness in America. He says that depression may be the biggest and most often ignored problem facing those millions who are still on welfare. And if you were to take a guess of how many of those people are depressed, what would you think?
I'd say between a third and a half.
Up to a half?
Yep, that's right. Clinically depressed.
If someone's depressed and they're on welfare and they're not treated, they're trapped.
For more than 20 years, Dr. Carl Bell has run a mental health clinic in one of the poorest parts of Chicago.
When you're depressed, you can't think because your thinking is slowed down like it's filled with molasses. Can't concentrate. You can't sleep. You can't eat. You just have no energy at all to do anything.
That's a perfect description of Angela Moffett's condition the day we met her last May. A single mother of 5, she's been on welfare for years and been depressed for years. She let us come to her first appointment with Dr. Joyce Miller, a psychiatrist in Dr. Bell's clinic. It was the first time she ever told anyone about her depression. She says the welfare office keeps telling her, go get a job, but she can hardly get out of the house. She just sits home and cries.
Had you ever thought about just wanting to give up, just wanting to die?
Yeah. I hate to say that I did, but yeah.
That first day in therapy, Angela Moffett was lifeless, crying constantly, her voice barely a whisper.
Yeah.
Just 2 months later, after therapy and taking the antidepressant Zoloft, this is Angela Moffett, utterly transformed.
When I first came in here, I was like, oh, I was a mess.
Tell us what you were going through and what you couldn't do.
It was hard for me to get out of bed.
Just getting yourself up in the morning.
Just getting up in the morning was hard.
Did you feel sad? What?
All the time. It was like nothing could possibly make you happy. Nothing and no one. And you isolate yourself. You know, you stay secluded. Kids knocking on the door like, Mom. You're like, go away. I can't deal with you guys right now. And next thing you know, you're trapped in that room and you can't get out.
Angela might still be trapped if not for something being tried out right in the welfare offices in her hometown of Chicago.
Next person in line, step up.
The state of Illinois, bless their heart, finally figured out that maybe the people who were going to be left on welfare were people with psychiatric disorders. And so maybe somebody ought to be there screening for that and referring people for treatment.
So people come in for welfare, for their checks, to make their applications. And if somebody is there that perhaps spots these symptoms that you can see very often.
Right. You can screen them out. Everybody can get a very simple screening form, find out who's got what, and then treat them.
A counselor from Carl Bell's clinic works full-time at the welfare office a few blocks away, trained to spot depressed people. Last spring, she spotted Angela Moffett.
And she was telling me, maybe you need a little help. You know, and I was like, well, no, I don't need no help. Especially when you say psychiatrist. What? No, mental health, I don't think so. I'm going to be fine, you know.
There's a stigma.
Yeah, that's a big
I'm not crazy.
Right, there you go. But she
was it shameful?
Very. Because it actually took 3 referrals before I actually went.
Really?
Yeah, because she referred me the first time. I'm like, nah, I ain't going.
That kind of stigma about psychiatry has disappeared from much of America, even Tony Soprano's on Prozac. But in many Black and Hispanic communities, admitting you suffer from depression still carries the mark of shame.
What happens when you do help somebody? Don't they go back and tell their friends?
No, they don't tell anybody.
They don't?
They don't want to be labeled as being crazy.
So they sneak in to see you.
They sneak in and sneak out.
Bell says there's always been suspicion in the black community of doctors and medicine, but he says that fear is being stoked by what he calls anti-psychiatrists.
They are forever pumping into the black community these scare tactics, that there's a genocidal plot to put black children on Ritalin, there's a genocidal plot to put black people on antidepressant medication.
Who's spreading those tales? Among others, the Church of Scientology, which has long campaigned against psychiatry. This pamphlet is from something called the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, a group founded by Scientology. The same stuff is on their website, all targeted specifically at blacks, telling them that psychiatrists are racist.
Now, if you're not that sophisticated, if you're not well exposed, not well read, and you get this very slick, nice-looking literature, you're going to be prone to believe it.
Do you get that yourself as a black psychiatrist?
I've got a little more entree into the black community because I'm fairly black. So I've got a little more credibility, but it is near impossible for me to say put a black child on Ritalin or put somebody on an antidepressant without getting this huge argument.
Winning those arguments is Carl Bell's passion, even if he has to shrink the words mental health to get depressed people to come through his clinic door.
You know, what's mind-boggling to me is the reality that it's a treatable illness. And if people would just allow the treatment to occur, I've had several folk come in, finally, after years and years and years of being depressed, stuck on welfare. I treat them for the depression. They go back to school and they get a job and they work themselves out of it.
And you see it like that?
It's, it's not rocket science. It's very easy.
But it's almost a little miracle is what you're saying.
It's a night and day thing.
You know, once I had gotten treatment, and that's when I really realized, wow, I've been depressed for a very long time.
Imani Hadid of Washington, D.C. has a story that's eerily similar to Angela Moffett's. She, too, once lived in a pit of depression so deep that she couldn't even care for her 5 kids.
I was putting a lot of responsibilities on my 9-year-old. Like, can you fix...
can you do the things you would...
Can you fix lunch,
9 years old.
Yes. And I think they even, noticed because my daughter would say, Mommy, you never take us anywhere anymore.
And like Angela, Imani hid her depression.
Definitely. I did try to hide it. I didn't want anyone to know that there was something wrong, that there was a problem, that I was feeling this way. Not even my husband, not even...
Imani says that for a long time she told only God.
I was asking God to please take this away. Please take this away.
She's a Muslim, but lots of Christians take the same approach.
I've heard so many times that people with depression in the black community feel they should be praying their way out of this, that it's really a spiritual failing if they don't.
Religion in the black community is to some extent a double-edged sword. There's a notion that if you are depressed, it's a lack of willpower. If you would only live a good Christian life, it would go away. If you put it in the hands of God, you'd be okay.
Imani's prayers were answered, though not in the way she expected. One day, she took her disabled son into a public clinic for medical care, and someone happened to be there with a depression screening questionnaire.
Trouble falling asleep?
Yes.
Feeling tired or having little energy?
Yes.
Poor appetite or overeating?
Yes.
Little interest or pleasure in doing things?
Yes.
This was you?
That was me.
So now they're asking all these questions, and you're saying...
How did you know?
How did you know?
How did you know, to ask those questions? That's me. I mean, has someone been following me around? Is there a camera somewhere watching me? I burst into tears right there. Oh, I can't believe this is happening. And she asked me, do you want to get help? And I said, yes. Yes.
That's the same answer Angela Moffett gave through her tears that first day in the psychiatrist's office.
Do you think that it would have been impossible for you to go out and find a job when you were in the depths of it?
Oh, yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah.
What about now?
Now I feel so good. I know I can get me a job now. Oh, I'm going to get a job.
Angela might never have gotten better if that mental health worker hadn't been in the welfare office. And yet programs that reach out like that are the very rare exception.
We hear that less is being spent nationally, not just from the federal government, but by the individual
states
on mental health, rather than going the other direction.
Right. Big mistake, which we will pay for.
The scant public resources that remain are focused on people who are violent or schizophrenic.
So many people and so little money that many systems are being overwhelmed by patients with really extraordinarily severe problems. So if you just have a merely severe problem, you're going to have to wait in line.
And in the unlikely event that you ever get to the front of that line, you still may not get good care.
If you're poor, you're much more likely to get an older medication rather than a newer medication because they're so much less expensive.
With more side effects.
Which has more side effects. And that means the chances that you stop taking the medication and just say the heck with it before going back are much greater.
What percent of poor people with depression do you think get really good care?
It's about 15%.
15%?
Yeah, 1 or 2 out of every 10.
Angela Moffett is just beginning to realize how lucky she is. The odds were stacked against her all the way.
What would you say is the single biggest change in your life since you have had this diagnosis and gone on medication?
My relationship with my children. Yeah. They look at Mom in a whole different light. I mean, before I couldn't see their eyes smile. Now I do. They got this twinkle in their eyes, like, hey, Mom. Just to hear the words, Mom's back. Oh, this sounds good to me.
And they say it.
Oh, yeah. Mom's back. Yeah.
So free.